Welcome back to Notorious Figures in History. Tonight, Pete the Pick Lafroscia, the Gambino family's forgotten soldier. You know the bosses, Gotti, Castellano, but underneath them, an unseen engine of earners and enforcers ran the business, their names hid in files and surveillance stills. One of those names, Pete Lafroscia, known inside the mob simply as the Pick. He was both a master thief and a trusted killer. Member of the Deo Crew under Roy Deo, described by NYPD as the best auto thief ever. He stole cars with surgical precision, supplying an international racket. The Empire Boulevard operation shipped hundreds of stolen cars overseas, Kuwait, Puerto Rico, turning theft into big business. This is the world where Lafroscia learned his craft, a brutal, efficient coalition of thieves and killers. What follows is a look at a criminal craft turned into an empire, and how one man's skill became indispensable to a violent crew. Pete the Pick, a nickname earned, not assigned. His talent was technical: locks, ignitions, early car alarms, treated like a surgeon treats instruments. NYPD investigators later called him the best auto thief they'd seen. He rarely left a trace. No broken glass, no smashed locks, only vanished cars. When a luxury sedan disappeared without evidence, detectives whispered his name. Month after month he delivered, and the profits flowed. Empire Boulevard became the logistical heart. Warehouses, chop shops, export crates. VINs were altered, paperwork forged. Cars acquired legitimate identities before shipment. Then they shipped them overseas. The FBI would later call the racket colossal. Specific makes and models were targeted. High-end buyers overseas paid handsomely. Reports say active partners earned roughly $30,000 a week each at peak. For Lafroscia, this system was his domain. Procure, prep, ship. He could also be unexpectedly human. A story he tells about being mistaken for a drug supplier in Florida once earned laughs and $2,000. A quirky aside in a life of danger, and a reminder these men lived ordinary moments amid the extraordinary. But the job always pulled him back to precision and profit. Scale brought attention. Federal agents watched ports, warehouses and shipping manifests. The same revenue that enriched the crew would later be the thread investigators pulled to unravel them. Roy Deo led a tightly knit faction within the Gambino family, earners and killers in one unit. They operated with autonomy, a group prosecutors later described as extraordinarily violent. The Gemini Lounge served as their hub, a place where deals were made and often lives ended. Among the most dangerous were the Gemini twins, Joseph Testa and Anthony Center, Henry Borelli, cold and ruthless, central to the crew's wet work, and Anthony Center, a close friend of Lafroscia's, bonded by shared work and trust. Lafroscia wore two hats: master procurer of cars and a trusted participant in murder assignments. He was linked to several murders, including cases from the late 1970s. The crew's method was clinical: lure, kill and dispose. Fountain Avenue became notorious as their graveyard. Most crucial, absolute silence. Omerta was their law. That silence brought trust and protection, even when bodies stacked up. Lafroscia would come to be respected for never talking, even when offered deals. Above them sat Paul Castellano, a businessman who liked revenue and hated publicity. Nino Gaggi, Demeo's direct superior. The crew answered upward when needed. Castellano tolerated the Demeo violence because the cash flowed into Gambino coffers. But autonomy bred paranoia, internal checks, fear of loose tongues, and brutal enforcement. Connections tightened as indictments and deaths removed key players. By the early 1980s, federal investigations closed in on the Deo crew. Roy Deo himself would be murdered in 1983, likely on orders from above. Core members, Borelli, Center, Testa, and Pete Lafroscia, were swept into indictments. Lafroscia faced a stark choice: cooperate with the government or serve hard time. Federal offers of witness protection and new identities were likely on the table. He refused. He honored omerta over freedom. Convicted and sentenced, Lafroscia served 26 years behind bars. A quarter century of silence, watching associates die, cooperate, or rot away. Many of his peers would never walk free again. When he walked out, the world had changed. New media, new questions. Lafroscia has appeared in YouTube interviews, speaking matter-of-factly but avoiding explicit admissions. He offers anecdote and context about Roy Deo, Anthony Center and life in the crew without naming crimes. There are reports a television series based on his life is in development. If produced, the story will bind his name to more famous bosses, Castellano, Gaggi and the Empire Boulevard operation. His legacy is conflicted, a master criminal who enabled terror and a man who never snitched. The bodies, the cash, the exported cars, all pieces of a brutal ecosystem. Pete the Pick Lafroscia remains an enigmatic figure, practical, loyal and lethal. If you want more deep dives into figures who shaped history from the shadows, subscribe for more videos on figures in history.